It's No King's Day 2.0. Get ready for the largest protest in American history. I've been speaking to organizers of the protests, and they expect more than 10 million people, not just across the country, but across the globe, to come out and protest on No King's Day. And while No King's Day 2.0 has already begun, more than 400 people are currently and have been this morning protesting in front of the United States Embassy in London, England. Organizers tell me that they expect protests in Ireland and other countries abroad throughout the day. The first protests in America are set to begin in the coming hours, with Washington, D.C., the flagship protests, expecting more than 100,000 people on the ground. I'll be there. I'll be covering it live for you. So make sure to subscribe to support my work or send a one-time donation via Venmo to Aaron-Parnas, because right now, the media, the world, needs to see what's happening in the United States of America, and I'm going to make sure the truth gets out. According to organizers, No King's Day RSVPs have doubled in the past several days, doubled in response to Republican backlash. Republicans on Capitol Hill have been calling No King's Day 2.0 a hate America rally. And in response, more and more Americans are signing up to RSVP to come to one of their protests. As it currently stands, there are about 2,700 protests scheduled nationwide, with an additional several worldwide. Each of these protests is equipped with safety mechanisms to ensure that the protests remain peaceful. There is no violent protesting allowed. And if you're watching this and you're planning on going out later today, know this. If you see violence, call it out. Tell local authorities, tell an organizer, tell their so-called peacekeepers in the area, because these are meant to be peaceful protests. And as you know, peaceful protesting is the hallmark of any strong American democracy. Now, the protests abroad in London haven't actually been called No Kings. They're called the No Tyrant Day events. So it's interesting, given the change in language overseas versus here at home. And so we're going to see what today a likely historic turnout. And I'm going to be providing you coverage not just on the ground in Washington, D.C., where we expect Senator Bernie Sanders to headline the protest, and I'll try to get you interviews with organizers, members of Congress alike, but also with everyday Americans who are coming to protest. But I also am going to cover protests across the country, because with 2,700 protests, it's important to note that there are protests not just in the big cities, but also in rural America, in Trump country. Areas where Donald Trump won by 80, 90% of the vote, they will have protests. Yeah, it might not be 100,000 people, might not even be 1,000 people, might be 10 people. But even 10 people in a small rural community in Wisconsin, that makes a difference. That shows something different. And well, I started the week off when talking about No King's Day about this 3.5% rule. When 3.5%, it's from Erica Chenoweth, who is a political scientist. She wrote about this for a long time. When 3.5% of any society conducts peaceful resistance, society changes. Americans, they're about, let's say, 320 million Americans in the United States. That's an estimate. Could be a little more, could be a little less. If they get to what they expect is about 10, 11 million people on the ground across the world, across the country today, that would meet that 3.5% mark, or it would be somewhat there. And that would be a significant accomplishment, because looking back historically, the protests we've seen in the United States of America, the largest ones, back during Trump 1, were during his first administration, there was the Women's March, which had several million people. You also had the protest against his immigration policy, which had several million people, but none hit 10 million people. You also, looking back even further back, or not further back, but looking back to Trump 1 again, you had the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests. Those hit about 15 million people, according to estimates, 15 to 20 million people. Now, those estimates vary depending on who you ask. But today's protests could potentially be greater than the Black Lives Matter protests. Looking back to 1970, where you had the Earth Day protests, that really is, in a lot of ways, in a lot of respects, the largest protest in American history at 20 million. But today can beat that. Yes, they expect 10 million, but organizers tell me that they want the record. They want the largest American protest in modern day American history. So we're going to see what happens today, and I'll be on the ground providing you live coverage throughout the day as events unfold. Now, in addition, that's not the only news that we missed overnight and that we need to cover. The United States Marines plan to fire 155 millimeter artillery shells over Interstate 5 at Camp Pendleton on Saturday for the Marine Corps' 250th anniversary, sparking backlash from Governor Gavin Newsom, who has called it a dangerous show of force. The New York Times has confirmed my exclusive reporting from earlier this week that this is part of a Marine Corps celebration, even though the Marine Corps anniversary is not until next month, which many now believe this could be done just as an effort to try to draw attention away from what's happening, though, King's Day across the country. Donald Trump commuted former Representative George Santos' 7-year sentence late last night, ordering his immediate release after citing alleged mistreatment, drawing praise from allies like Marjorie Taylor Greene. About 42 million Americans are at risk of losing food stamp benefits in November due to the ongoing federal shutdown. The United States Department of Agriculture warns that funding will run out within just 2 weeks for SNAP and food stamp benefits. Maheen Sharir, a 28-year-old Bangladeshi asylum seeker in Canada, has been detained in a United States ICE facility after accidentally crossing the border. His lawyers say Canadian authorities have failed to act on their legal obligation under the Safe Third Country Agreement to bring him back, leaving him in months-long limbo despite recognized risks if deported back to Bangladesh. The Trump administration officials are privately exploring the possibility of arranging a meeting between Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during Donald Trump's visit to Asia next month. No formal planning or communication with Pyongyang has occurred just yet, but skepticism remains high given stalled diplomacy since their last 2019 encounter. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Donald Trump neither approved nor rejected Ukraine's request for Tomahawk missiles during their White House meeting, expressing hopes for future support, even as Trump plans further talks with Putin in Budapest. The NRSC, the National Republican Senatorial Committee, released a deep-fake video of Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer repeating a real quote about the government shutdown, marking the GOP's latest use of AI-generated political content and drawing significant criticism for blurring ethical lines in campaign messaging. Folks, today's going to be a very busy day. I may have 4 updates for you, 5 updates for you. I don't know how many updates I'll have, but I'll be in Washington, D.C. I'll be on the ground, one of 100,000 plus, giving you all the news you need to know about throughout the day. Spread the word, like, comment, share, and subscribe to support my work, and I'll see you soon.